My name is Lucas Van Est, and today I will be discussing database types. There are dozens of different types of database systems that businesses use for a wide variety of different uses. To put it simply, database systems are basically containers for large sums of data. Before we start, I'll give you a quick overview of what the presentation will consist of. First, I'll explain what exactly a database system is. I'll explain the difference between SQL and NoSQL database systems. I'll then continue with the usages of database systems, and finally, I'll wrap up with the advantages and disadvantages of database systems. So what exactly is a database system? First, it is essential to know that a database system is a collection of data. A database system, or DBMS for short, is a computer software application that interacts with the user, other applicants, and the database itself to capture and analyze data. It is designed to allow the definition, creation, storage, and updating of databases. Systems that encompass all databases. SQL database systems and NoSQL database systems. While they have several similarities, they also have many differences. First, SQL databases. SQL stands for Standard Query Language. An SQL database is a relational database. A relational database matches data by using common characteristics found in a data set, and the resulting group is termed as a schema. These schemas are divided into sets of rows and columns of data. SQL databases store and retrieve data by applications either on the same computers or over the cloud network. With these schemas comes SQL communication. These communications are fairly simple to understand. They use these communications to organize the data that is stored in the server, and they provide different functions with dealing with the data. Some of these functions include select, insert, update, crop, and delete. Many corporations all over the world use SQL database systems. For example, Oracle, Microsoft, and Google. Oracle database is one of the biggest and well-known SQL database systems. Their proprietary or closed source software, Object Relational Database, focuses on bridging the gap between relational and object-oriented databases. Next are NoSQL databases. Also known as non-standard query language, NoSQL databases do not support the SQL in order to achieve performance or reliability features that are incompatible with the flexibility of SQL. Also known as one-size-fits-all databases, NoSQL approaches include simplicity of design, simpler horizontal clusters of machines, which is a problem for SQL databases, as well as not creating schemas like SQL databases do. Excuse me. Here are some examples of companies that use NoSQL databases, including Netflix, Chegg, and Disney. Speaking more in depth regarding Netflix, they migrated from Oracle to a NoSQL database known as Cassandra that helped them to improve the availability and to eliminate downtime incurred by database schema changes. SQL database systems have two main usages. The first is creating table sets or schemas, as I have mentioned before. All Android phones and iPhones have easy access to SQL databases called SQLite, and many applications on your phone use it directly. It runs banks, hospitals, universities, small businesses, large ones, governmental operations on just about every computer, and every person on the planet eventually touches something running on an SQL database. NoSQL has different functions to them. First, they are schema-free. They are able to store massive amounts of data and are able to retrieve such data in a quicker amount of time, which is why Netflix converted to a NoSQL database system. NoSQL databases typically use clusters of cheap commodity servers to manage the exploding data and transaction volumes, which tends to rely on expensive proprietary servers and storage systems. Next, I will transition into the advantages of database management systems. Such advantages include sufficient organization, a reliable type of technology, and protection of fraud and tampering, as well as data sharing. Though there are many more advantages, I pinpointed the ones that prove to be the most beneficial. First is the organization. With thousands upon thousands of files, it can be difficult to organize. Anything from schemas to text, PDF, and more, these database systems do an excellent job at differentiating and sorting files. It also helps to counteract redundancy. The data of an organization is integrated into a single database, and the data is recorded at only one place in the database and is not duplicated. Next is database security. Only the authorized users are allowed to use the database. Some of the users may be allowed to access only a part of the database. For example, the data that is related to them or related to their department. Mostly a head of the department can access all the data in the database, and some users may be permitted only to retrieve data, whereas others are allowed to retrieve as well as to update data. Lastly, it's data sharing. Data can be shared by authorized users of an organization. The DBA managers and the data give rights to users to access the data. Many users can be authorized to access the same set of information simultaneously. The remote users can also share same data. Next, onto some disadvantages of database systems. Now, there aren't many, but there are still some inevitable cons. To pinpoint two major ones, employee training and costs are the two most vital disadvantages that need to be fixed. New employee training. Most database systems are complex, so the training for users to use the systems is without a doubt required. Training is required at all levels, including programming, application development, and database administration. An organization has to pay a lot for this training staff to run such a database system. Next are costs of operating the database system. When a hard drive file-based system is replaced with a database system, the data stored in that data file must be converted to a database file. It is difficult and takes up a lot of time to convert all the data into the new database system. An organization would have to hire database system designers along with application programmers, therefore adding additional costs to operating the database system. As we draw near a close, I will quickly recap what we covered in this presentation. First, we defined what a database management system is. We differentiated the two different types of database systems, SQL and NoSQL. We described their usages, and we finally capped it off by discussing their advantages and disadvantages. Database systems provide organizations with a central fountain of information that can be easily searched or used to generate reports. It helps businesses, no matter the size, keep track of their precious data that they can and probably will utilize at some time in the future. Database systems help to keep these data sets and secure in order to aid business success.